Many of you folks know our story. A lot of y'all know the difficulties that we've gone through. It's a tough story, but it needs to be told in order to share with you guys the experiences and struggles that we went through in order to get where we are today, and the great blessing that we have today that God has bestowed upon us. Ever since me and Amy got married, we wanted to have children, and we tried from the very beginning. And about 3 years into it, with no success, we started to seek out other avenues, fertility treatments, things of that nature, and numerous surgeries. And we thought things were going good. We got another snag in the road that we reached with some miscarriages that we experienced, and times that were very, very tough on us. So this story is going to be told twice, from two different perspectives, from what I tell you and the letter that Amy wrote. And during that time of struggle, we didn't understand why. We didn't think it was fair. We were very mad at God sometimes. We didn't know what we deserved or why we deserved to go through those things. But we stayed faithful to God. We still believed in Him. And a large part of that was because of you guys rallying around us, coming to our home and praying with us, putting your arms around us, letting us know that God still loves us, and telling us don't give up. Hang in there. So we just kept battling, and a large part of that was because you guys stood in the gap for us when we had that void in our life. And yet, when we know that God's plan was different for us, we didn't know what His plan was. We just were wishing that He would hurry up and show us something. And that plan came in the form of a simple phone call. We did not expect it. And it was probably the greatest phone call we've ever received. And it was a phone call of the opportunity to adopt a child. And that phone call was in June, the 24th, when he was born. And it was probably the longest 48 hours of my life from the time he was born in order for us to bring him home. But what a wonderful experience it was. And yet we know that he had his child taken for us long ago. When we went to the hospital and stayed there 2 days, like I said earlier, it was the longest 2 days. But that 48 hours later, when we finally got to bring him home, we were still there in the hospital. And I saw the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Those nurses and other assistants at the hospital said my wife, set her down in a wheelchair and placed our son in his arms. And I got the tremendous opportunity to wheel her down to the front door and load her into the car just like she had given birth to him. It's the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a story of victory. It's a story of happiness. And just everything kind of coming full circle. And it was just fantastic. And I knew make certain promises that I think God will allow this one. And it was just from that moment, He knew in my heart that I would do whatever it took, or that we would do whatever it took to raise that child to be a Christian man, to raise Graham to be a Christian. I can't wait until you can understand that we have the opportunity to tell him what Jesus did for him and what God did for him. And I know that's part of the reason why God allowed us to go through what we went through. And because He knows that we will love this child more than anything on this planet. And I can't wait to teach him how to grow up to be a man, how to be a Christian man, how to be honest, how to have integrity, pass a lot of those things on. A lot of them I had to experience on my own. To know what it's like to be a father, to have a complete family, instead of a broken one that I had grown up in. Although the experiences that I'll never trade, because that's what made me the man I am today. And the experiences that I went through. But now I can share with him on how a father loves a child. Teach him again that there is still good in this world and that it is worth fighting for. And some of you all still know, or excuse me, some of you have found out recently that Amy is pregnant. And she is 5 months pregnant at this point in time. And I still have a hard time wrapping my mind around that. But, you know, what can you do when God's in control? But if it be His will, I'm busting at the seams that everything goes okay. And one day, in the near future, I'll be able to introduce Graham to his baby brother. So, I would like to tell you, or read to you what Amy wrote. It's got a lot of what I've already said in weeks with a miscarriage. The desire for a family still burdened us both, so after several surgeries and a little extra help from a specialist in Lubbock, we conceived again. This time felt different. We made trips back and forth to Lubbock to see the doctor there and saw a certain doctor we all know here. It was an awesome experience being pregnant and beginning the journey to becoming parents. We passed easily to the next trimester. On finding out we were having a girl at 18 weeks, we named her Olivia. Steve and I had never realized that you already think of yourself as mom and dad, even while the baby is growing inside. We couldn't wait for this precious girl to arrive. Just after weeks after seeing Olivia kicking and moving on a sonogram, her heartbeat could no longer be heard. Losing Olivia was like losing everything, every part of what Steve and I had made. A piece of me died the day we lost her. I felt not only physically empty, but emotionally and spiritually empty. I had a hard time understanding why it happened. I questioned God many times what the plan was and prayed to help me move on. God answered our prayers in the form of a Christian friend and a community that lifted us up. God gave us family who stayed by our side. God gave us each other to help our marriage grow strong. One of the things God did was start to weigh on my heart that it did not matter how we formed our family. Being a mom or being a dad didn't have to be the way I had always thought of. I still remember during one of the visits by our elders, one said a very wise thing. He took Steve and me by the shoulders and looked at us straight in the eye and said, maybe you could think about adopting. Yes, several people had mentioned this before, but it hadn't sunk into me until that time. Steve and I began to actively pursue this option and felt as giddy as new parents. We grew more excited as each hurdle was crossed, and finally our portfolio had officially joined the whirlwind. Steve and I eagerly prepared for this baby's arrival as if we were going to deliver ourselves. We were so nervous we could hardly function, and when we finally got the call that our baby girl was on the way, we in the waiting room until they said it was time. The baby had just been born, and we could go in. But first, they needed to let us know something. They actually asked us if we still wanted the baby because it wasn't a girl, it was a boy. Steve and I both stammered out, yes. Steve and I entered the delivery room cautiously, and right there the nurse handed us a beautiful, tiny blessing wrapped in a blanket. How could we not want this precious gift? I wish I could explain in words how it felt to hold our sweet ram for the first time. But even if I tried, I would fail miserably. It made everything we had been through make sense. Without the loss, we would not have known what we gained. I felt a deep sense of gratitude for the unselfish choice this sweet young lady had made in choosing us. She gave us the greatest gift we'll ever receive. Steve and I were full of hope, and the day we brought Graham home was the happiest day of our lives. Even though we had a desire to be parents, we never realized what joy this little boy would bring. God has blessed us with truly the sweetest gift of parenthood. He has allowed us to be mom and dad to Graham. We can delight in everything about him, even changing diapers. Our journey as parents has just begun, but I know that every day will be filled with just as much excitement as the day he arrives, because we don't know, we don't want to take any of it for granted. Steve and I are going to try to be there, to be the best mom and dad we can be, and we know we have lots of wonderful family, sweet friends, and an entire church family, and Christian community that will be there to guide us. God is so faithful. He never gives up on us, and I'm glad. I'm so glad. God continues to bless us as we are having a baby brother for Graham. I can see them now growing up together. Two little boys who love the Lord and will never know what miracles they both are. We want to finish with a poem that another couple who has adopted a child gave this to us. And it's titled Legacy of an Adopted Child. The author is unknown. Once there were two women who never knew each other. One you do not remember, the other you call mother.